other one that we did not have originally, and I heard people keep talking about it, and I had to check it out for myself, is OddTaxi.
OddTaxi. Yeah, this was another one where everyone has been talking about it so much that I think we both could not ignore it. We had to check out OddTaxi. So I didn't really know what to expect, even though it's in my new favorite anime genre of anthropomorphic animals doing very human things, which has been started with Agretzko, Beastars, and now we have OddTaxi. So just, incriminating myself more and more, even though I swear I'm not a furry, I swear. But it's not looking good, though, based on this history. But let's start with you, because I've gone first every time. What do you think of OddTaxi?
I think it'll be a problem, though, for you. Like, if you ever update your 3x3 and then, like, the top 3 or within them is just all anthropomorphic animal shows.
It's not looking good. It's not looking good.
OddTaxi was not at all what I expected. I mean, like, it's in a league of its own. It's really unique. I checked it out, not knowing again what to expect. And first episode I was like, okay, this is interesting. But the more I watched, the more it like got more and more into this tangled web of, everything being connected, and it all had this like really good, tightly written dialogue, between characters that was really enjoyable to listen to. And then it's also like this mystery, and you're trying to find out like how it all ties in, and then you see like how it's all connected, and you're just kind of shocked the whole time to see how this is all like tightly connected.
It's like philosophical and also Durarara-ish, where it's like everyone is part of the mystery in one way or another, and they all have these connections. But then it gets like super philosophical in terms of like, why do people do things? How do they feel about things? Like, what's their motive in life for their actions?
But it gets super philosophical at times in such a mundane way. Like, it's like literally they're just in the taxi talking, or just kind of talking about comedy, on the radio or something like that. And the two characters will just be like, kind of just sharing some thoughts on something. And it just like, it doesn't like try to be like deep. It's
not in your face about it. They're just like, they really just be out there talking about stuff and shit comes up.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and then and a lot of it is kind of really funny,
I was like laughing at a lot of it. And I think it's cool because it's like, you could kind of imagine all this shit going down with the taxi driver. Like, they see some weird shit, especially in the city late at night. Like, they're probably seeing all sorts of crazy stuff. But it was cool to see and just go ahead.
I think the point where it like started getting really crazy, at least for me, like I just couldn't believe what I was watching, I guess. Well, I wouldn't word it that way, but like when when it had this whole episode devoted to that one character that was addicted to gotcha games, and I didn't even know, like, and it was slow, because you're like, okay, what is this building up to? How does this tie in? And you just get his full backstory, and it's the whole episode.
That's when you know.
And then for that one moment that it ties in with Odokawa, and it just ruins his life, and now you have this wild card rogue factor just going on in the background. No, that was really well executed. And then so far, the mystery, and that has kind of been going on. And even in this like past episode where even how that tied into like another character and his past. And it's like, oh.
I like, something I was noticing the whole time was that my feelings towards Dobu, who's like the weird gorilla looking dude, who's like, he's like been helping out, Odokawa the whole time. He always kind of is on that edge between like bad guy doing good things and then like not so bad guy, or bad guy doing bad things. He's always been on that edge, and like you kind of teeter back and forth on your opinion on him, on if you're like, maybe he's not that bad of a guy after all. Like, he has his own code, but like, he's bad, but he has his code, so maybe he's not as bad. And then like this last episode was kind of like, no, you fall into his trap of thinking he's not that bad, but he's been pretty bad for like the entire series, even before the series. And he's just like, he just has his good moments where you get kind of lulled into like his sense of duty and his, sometimes good actions. And I thought that was pretty cool and like meta for the whole characters. So yeah, I think I've been really enjoying it. We don't even know like what's going to happen in this last episode, because there's so much that we still have to uncover, especially about Odokawa, which ends up seeming like the biggest mystery of the series is like, what's his deal? Why is he so good at remembering specific people? What's with the discrepancies in his memory and his parents in the past? Like, who was he talking to in his apartment? Like, what's going on with this whole thing? So there are a lot of mysteries that are still yet to be uncovered.
And it's like the most subtle like mystery that's been working in the background. It's just sort of just been hinted at. You haven't really been paying attention because you're really kind of focused on the main mystery, but you're also like, okay, what does this all mean? And even the tie-in recently with the going with the main mystery in terms of the boss's daughter and kind of what happened there, that was really interesting. There's a Muska Art says the Otokawa theory about how all the characters are only animals in his mind is really neat.
I like that idea. I would be down with that. If that ends up happening, I'm down.
That's pretty cool because now like there are times where I've questioned some of the couples and like how like this animal's with this animal and how they had that kid, and I'm like, maybe it's just it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I would be interesting because there's so many times where they're like anthropomorphic animals, but like not connected to humanity as much, besides the obvious, like in a Gretzko, her boss is a pig because he makes sexist comments and is like lazy and fat. Like one of those things, that's a kind of obvious one. But in this one, like you can kind of see like the mannerisms and appearance having a connection. But if that is also like a literal connection where like he sees people in these ways because that's like their animal counterpart in personality and appearance, then that would be really cool.
Yeah. And then Weirdy says, based on the preview, we're going to get a full moment in Otokawa's headspace. So
that's exciting. I think this ending could really make it. This could be a make or break for anime of the season or another really good show that came out this season.
That's what's tough. Like, I know OddTaxi is a top contender. I am really enjoying it. I think it's unique, but I can only, base it on everything that's been out so far.
Yeah.
I can't speak for, the ending. That's tomorrow. So,
yeah.
Would you put it over Dyna Zenon or below?
I'd put it above Dyna Zenon.
Okay.
You too?
Yeah. Yeah, me too. That's where I'm at.
Going back.
We got to talk about Nomad Megalobox 2.
Yeah.
I went last time. What do you think?
I really liked the first episode of Nomad. I was like, this is like wild. I can't believe it. This is like such a different tone than what I was expecting. I didn't even know what to expect, but this is just not what I was expecting. And then I actually went back and I watched the first episode of Megalobox season 1. And I noticed that like Megalobox and Megalobox season 2, I feel like are really interesting because I feel like they're directed almost like a Western TV show, not like a Western, like, Wild West Western. Like it reminds me of kind of like HBO live action TV show directing, like the way they present things, the way they introduce things. And I thought that like made it feel really different. And it kind of comes full circle in this season because it's so much like so global in how it's presenting different cultures and different interactions and just like everything. It's kind of feels like a worldwide experience. So it's a long-winded way of saying, yeah, this show is fantastic. I think it did an amazing job. I didn't know what to expect from this, but it went in different directions than I anticipated in a good way. But I have a lot to praise about it. So I'll let you go first. Well, second first.
Yeah, second first. I think like I think I'm gonna rave first about like the prologue, like the first 4 episodes. Like it was so well done, like like
the first the Nomad arc. I guess I saw someone call it like the Nomad.
I think that's a good way of saying it because that's when he's like literally the Nomad, and then now that it ties in nicely at the end, it's like, and then the hummingbird brought him back. But that thematically and it just felt like such a like you could see the vision of this show was so different from the first season. And it had like a clear thing it was trying to tell with the atmosphere, with kind of like the whole thing with Chief, and it was really, really good way to start it off. And at that point, I still didn't know where it was going, but for what you got in that first arc, it was like, okay, this is really well executed. And like you were saying, it just felt totally different. And I read an interview earlier today from Anime News Network with the director and writers of Megalobox. 2 or Nomad?
I didn't get to see that, so I was hoping you read it and could tell me.
Yeah,
I want to go back and read it.
Yeah, I made sure because I hadn't gone around to it either. I was like, I finally want to read this, and it was very, very interesting. Like they didn't, and it makes a lot of sense. They had no idea, like they weren't planning for a season 2. They never thought about it. They never thought like, oh, we're gonna make, Nomad and make it entirely different because we want to. It was more of they were trying to pitch another show and that wasn't going well, and then someone came over to them, I think from the previous thing, and was like, hey, do you guys want to just do a Megalobox 2? And they were like, yeah, we're down. And then but they had no idea because like that first season everyone kind of got like more or less a happy ending and it was kind of done. Like, there was nothing left to explore. So then they started kind of like playing around with the idea and talking about like, okay, but if we were to continue the story, we'd have to like maybe like think about like a reset or think about how can we explore a completely different theme. And then they came up with this idea of like Joe being unforgiven and like Nambu dying and like, putting everyone in like a different spot because it's like, okay, yeah, sure. He won the Megalobox. He won Megalonia. He won the championship. But life goes on, like that's just one checkpoint in his life. But, that doesn't mean his life ended. More stuff happens. Yeah. So with that line of thinking, they went and developed Nomad. And then
that's cool.
They, came up with all of what they did kind of just to tell a completely different story. And then they touched about like immigration and stuff like that, kind of with their personal experiences with immigrants in Japan and how they're treated. So they use that to kind of explore in there because Joe, they made him like a symbol for all of them since he wasn't like really affiliated with a race, but he was like a nobody, but that he achieved this kind of like inspired all of them as like a hero or someone, that we can do this too. And then lastly, it was saying like how they've got all of their influences, a lot of their influences from like American and Spanish Westerns and, cool. A lot of live action films. So that was very interesting.
There's just so much like really rich storytelling with Megalobox that impresses me outside of the main storyline. Like I really love the way they tackle like these really large issues in the background of kind of like the capitalism, commercialism of how, they have these giant corporations that are like taking interest in taking advantage of these people in tough situations, like the poor people, the people in rough situations, and using them for their own personal gain while exploiting the idea of them as like these heroes and legends and dreamers. And they're the ones who are suffering in the process. And then you get to see, how the people who are at the bottom are suffering every time that there's like a huge storm, like every time, like, kind of climate change, extreme storms that like hurt them and they don't hurt anyone else on top. Like all of this like all of this like subtle world building going on in the background that like facilitates the main story, but doesn't take the place of it. And they handle it in like a very complicated way. Like you see the one guy's coming out with an article on how that brain chip is actually really detrimental and they're trying to buy him off. They're trying to like ruin him and like trying to ruin his academic career and the place where he's at. Just so many things going on in the background that feel very authentic and extreme, but realistic.
Yeah.
And then it kind of turns into this really interesting idea of, you get to the end of episode 11, and I don't know if you were in this. No, I mean, end of episode 12, right before today's finale. And I don't know about you, but I could have seen it go one of two ways. I could have seen Joe not die at the end, or I could see him die. I could have seen it gone in either direction, and either could have felt compelling, but I wasn't sure what message they were going to try and leave off with.
One of the things, though, that they did mention in the article that like probably why it felt so realistic is that they wanted to tackle these harsh like truths like without turning away from it. And so and there's like no easy answer, but then they kind of wanted to really depict it. But in terms of because like I feel like after the first 4 episodes, everything was more or less exposition and kind of build up to this final point. So like kind of like it makes more sense to just talk about this last episode as that capping off point for the rest of like Megalobox season 2 and Megalobox kind of as a whole. Because this season I felt like even with its ending like completely like leagues above like the first season, just did something completely different.
The first season was kind of weird in its ending because they built up all of this like melancholy, harsh realism throughout the series, and then they have this weird happy ending where it looks like Yuri is now like, you know, paralyzed from the waist down and he's in a wheelchair. Everyone is chilling, having a good time. And then Joe, I think like it ends with him like kind of dancing into the distance, but like everyone seems content, even Yuri, who is now like in a wheelchair. And you kind of felt like, how did we get here? I feel like the journey did not match the destination. And that's at least for me. Like it just felt like a very jarring ending. So I didn't look on season 1 that favorably the first time around because of the jarring tonal message. And then I was like, what are they going to do for this last ending? Like, what direction are they going to go in? In so many other series, you're presented this idea of like going out in a blaze of glory for your dream. Like, you know, and that's what you see happen throughout the series. Like you see people get so injured to the point where like they can't walk anymore. They die. They are, you know, paralyzed for the rest of their lives because they put their dream first and reality second. So you come to the end or you're like, are they going to do that? Are they going to, both of the guys, you know, because I think Mac was also a pretty interesting, sympathetic guy too. You know, you look at both of these people and you're like, I don't really want either of these guys to die for the sake of their dream.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I didn't want them to die either, especially when they came to realizations about what's most important for them in life. And kind of this fight at that point was more of not about like their dream. It was, or, you know, it was kind of more of a formality. Like I wouldn't call it a formality. It's something they felt like they needed to get done. Yeah. But it just wasn't like the same, like in the season 1, we're like, we need to have this fight. We need to go the distance. It was kind of like, okay, you know, this is on my bucket list. You know, let's get this over with. But I want to come back to my family.
Yeah, and that was a really cool direction to go in. And I think it's the less, I don't want to say glamorous, but it's the less like wow moment. It's not it's not a wow in your face like moment. But I do feel like it's an important message.
Yeah,
you know?
Thematically, like I was happy with it.
Yeah,
but like from a kind of as a viewer just watching it, like. I don't know. Like I felt like I guess it ended too clean, and I'm not complaining about that. It just kind of left me feeling like is this really it? Like that's it. They're good. They just survived, and they're just thumbs up, and it's over. And especially the way that, you know, I was trying to get Sacho's kind of thought process, because I mean
he's the one who made the decision. Sachio was like the one who made the decision, which was interesting because Joe and the other guy, they would have kept fighting to the death because they can't hold back. And that was a cool commentary of like, Joe was like, I'm not going to risk it all, but like, he can't help himself when he gets into that zone. You know, I don't think people are going to think of this as like an all-time great ending, but I do like it for the message of this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think on a thematic level, it accomplishes what it sets out to do. Like if you just see, because I think like Nomad was better constructed to deliver a message than I guess the first season. I don't know. Like it like this, the first season did have a message and did have a theme, and that did work well. But at the same time, it was playing up to this hype fight between, you know, Yuri and Joe, which didn't cut it for a lot of people. So here, you know, that it would prioritize the theme and kind of the message it's trying to get across over, you know, pure action or a spectacle makes sense. And I think that could be satisfying. So how did you agree this is like top anime of the season? Yeah.
You know, if I had to pick one, I don't know. I do like OddTaxi a lot. So I would recommend, I'd say like top 3, but this is top 1 is like Daini Zenon, OddTaxi, and then Nomad Megalobox season 2.
Okay. Yeah. So 3, then OddTaxi you're saying is 2, and then Nomad is 1. Yeah. Yeah. For me, Vivi's still at 2. Nomad is 1. Depending on OddTaxi's ending tomorrow, could pull ahead of at least Vivi, maybe Nomad. I don't know. Nomad's gonna be tough, but it was good. Unless OddTaxi's ending is like some huge spectacle that is the opposite of what Nomad delivered, which I doubt, because it's not that show's brand. Yeah. But Nomad was the best of the season. We're crowning it now. Live with it, because after all, we're just weebs. Little did we know back then that we were just wrong. On behalf of Just Weebs, we'd like to offer a revision to our last stream. We are incredibly sorry about our blunder last week in prematurely selecting Nomad as Best Anime of Spring 2021, when that title should have rightfully gone to OddTaxi. I know this isn't much of a consolation and the damage has most likely already been done, but once again, and you have to believe us here, we are sincerely apologetic. Now, one thing I'm not apologetic about is that I recommended VV Floralight Eyes song to Shocking, and she turned around, watched it, and shat on it. She did not like it. She called it dumb. She called it dumb! Can you believe that? Can you believe the betrayal there? Okay? She often talks about, being betrayed, but she did the betraying here. Okay? And you know what? I can't reconcile that. I can't reconcile that. So with that said, Just Weebs is disbanded effective immediately for this holiday weekend. We'll be back next week streaming. Thank you so much. Love y'all. Watch OddTaxi.